Okay, we are going to pick up. Last time we were reading, we found out that LJ and Kenny were going to have the world's greatest dinosaur war ever. And Kenny thought this was a great idea. So we're going to pick up there. I should have known something was fishy when LJ said, okay, but I get first shot. This was because Kenny was going to be the Americans. So this means now LJ is saying he gets the first shot. Most of the time, it always took a big fight to decide who had to be the Nazis. I started setting up my dinosaurs, and LJ said, "This ain't right. If this really is the world's greatest dinosaur war ever, we need more monsters. You should go get the rest of them." He was right. If this was going to be a famous battle, we needed more fighters. "Okay, I'll be right back," I said. This wasn't going to be easy. I wasn't allowed to take all of my dinosaurs out at once because Mama was afraid I'd lose most of them, especially because she didn't trust LJ. Every time he'd come over, she'd tell me, "You watch out for that boy. He's a little too sneaky for my tastes." I had a plan, though. I'd go upstairs and drop the pillowcase I kept my dinosaurs in out of the window. I wasn't so stupid that I'd drop them down to LJ. I'd drop them out of the other side of the house and then run around to get them. My plan worked perfect. After I went and picked up the pillowcase, I set up my dinosaurs and LJ set up the Nazis, and we started the battle. He took first shot and killed about 30 of mine with an atomic bomb. My dinosaurs shot back and got 20 of his with a hand grenade. The battle was going great. Dinosaurs were falling right, left, and center. We had a great big pile of dead dinosaurs off to the side and had to keep shaking more and more reinforcements out of the pillowcase. Then, in the middle of one big fight, LJ said, "Wait a minute, Kenny. There's something we forgot about." I was ready for a trick. I knew LJ was going to try to get me to go away for a minute so he could steal a bunch of my monsters. I said, "What? These dinosaurs been dropping atom bombs on each other. Think about how dangerous that is." "How's it dangerous?" LJ said. "Look." He made one of his brontosauruses run by the pile of dead dinosaurs, and when it got 2 steps past them, it started shaking and twitching and fell over on its side, dead as a donut. LJ flipped him on the dead dinosaur pile. I said, "What happened to him?" "It was the radioactiveness. We gotta bury the dead ones before they infect the rest of the live ones." Maybe it was because we had such a great war going on and I was kind of nervous about who'd win, but this stupid stuff made sense. So, instead of digging each one of the couple hundred dead dinosaurs a grave, we dug one giant hole and buried all the radioactive ones in it. Then we put a big rock on top so no radioactivity could leak out. This really was the world's greatest dinosaur war ever. We fought and killed dinosaurs for such a long time that we had to make 2 more graves with 2 more big rocks on top of them. LJ finally pulled the trick I knew he was going to, but he did it so cool that I didn't even see it coming. Here it comes, guys. Okay. Kenny, you ever been over in Banky and Larry Dunn's fort? LJ knew I hadn't. I found out where it is. Where? You want to come see it? Are you crazy? They ain't there. This is Thursday night. They're up at the community center playing ball. Really? Well, if you're too scared. I knew this was a worm with a hook in it, but I bit anyway. I'm not scared if you aren't. Let's go. I figured the trick would come in right here, so I kept a real good eye on LJ while we put my monsters back in the pillowcase. When we were done, I sneaked a look at his back pockets, 'cause I knew when he stole dinosaurs, he put them back there or in his socks. From the way his pockets were sticking out, it looked like he had one Tyrannosaurus Rex and one Triceratops. I couldn't tell how many he had in his socks. I figured that wasn't too bad a price for as much fun as we'd had. LJ was talking a mile a minute. They even got some books with naked ladies. You ever seen a naked lady? Yeah, lots of times. I had too. Byron had borrowed lots of nasty magazines from Buckhead's library. I knew LJ didn't believe me though. For some reason, if you were famous for being smart, no one thought you'd ever looked at a dirty book. LJ said, "You gotta be in the house by 7, don't you?" Yeah. Okay, we better hurry before it gets too late. After I sneaked the dinosaurs back into the house, we ran off toward Banky and Larry Dunn's secret fort. It wasn't until 9 o'clock at night when I was in bed that a bell went off in my head. I'd forgotten all about the radioactive dinosaurs. I put on my tennis shoes and got my night reading flashlight, climbed out the back window and went down the tree into the backyard. I got to the battleground and saw the 3 radioactive graves. But when I moved the rock on the first one and dug a little bit down, I didn't hit one dinosaur. Not one. The second grave was empty too. I didn't even move the rock from the third one. I just sat there and felt real stupid. I couldn't help thinking about Sunday school again. I remembered the story about how a bunch of angels came down and rolled away the rock that was in front of Jesus' grave to let him go to heaven. I think it took them 3 days to push the rock far enough so that he could squeeze out. My dinosaurs weren't even in their graves for 3 hours before someone rolled their rocks away. Maybe it was a lot easier for a bunch of angels to get 1,000,000 dinosaurs to heaven than it was to get the savior of the whole world there, but I'd wish they'd given me a couple more hours. But I was just making excuses to myself for being so stupid. I know if a detective had looked at these rocks, he wouldn't have found a clue of a single angel being there, but I'd bet $1,000,000 that he'd have seen that those rocks were covered with a ton of L.J. Jones fingerprints. I never played with LJ again after that, so playing with Rufus got to be okay. It was a lot better not to have to worry about getting stuff stolen when you were with your friends, and it was a lot better not spending half of the time arguing about who's going to be the Nazi dinosaurs. I was wrong when I said that me and Rufus being near each other all the time would make people tease both of us twice as much. People started leaving me alone and going right after Rufus. It was easy for them to do because he was kind of like me. He had 2 things wrong with him too. The first thing wrong with Rufus was the way he talked. After he said that "hiya y'all" stuff on the bus, he got to be famous for it. And no matter how much he tried to talk in a different way, people wouldn't let him forget what he'd said. The other thing wrong with him was his clothes. It didn't take people too long before they counted how many pairs of pants and shirts Rufus and Cody had. That was easy to do because Rufus only had 2 shirts and 2 pairs of pants, and Cody only had 3 shirts and 2 pairs of pants. They also had 1 pair of blue jeans that they switched off on. Some days Rufus wore them, and some days Cody rolled the legs up and put them on. It's really funny how something as stupid as a pair of blue jeans can make you feel real bad, but that's what happened to me. We had been sort of secret friends for a couple of weeks before people really started getting on them about not having a bunch of clothes. Me and Rufus and Cody were on the bus right behind the driver one day when Larry Dunn walked up to our seat and said, "Country Cornflake, I noticed how you and the little flake switched off on them pants, and I know Fridays is your day to wear 'em, but I was wondering if the same person who gets to wear the pants gets to wear the drawers that day too." Of course, the whole bus started laughing and hollering. Larry Dunn went back to his seat real quick before the driver had a chance to tell anybody the secret he knew about Larry's mama. I looked over at Cody. He had the blue jeans on today and was pulling the waist out to check out his underpants. Maybe it was because everybody else was laughing. Maybe it was because Cody had such a strange look on his face while he peeked at his underpants. Maybe it was because I was glad that Larry hadn't jumped on me. But whatever the reason was, I cracked up too. Rufus shot a look at me. His face never changed, but I knew right away I'd done something wrong. I tried to squeeze the rest of my laugh down. Things got real strange. Instead of Rufus jabbering away at me a mile a minute in school, he scooted around in his seat, so all I could see was his back. Whoops. He didn't follow me out to the playground either, and he acted like he didn't want my sandwiches anymore. Ever since Mama had met Rufus and I told her about sharing my sandwiches with him, she had been giving me 4 sandwiches and 3 apples for lunch. When I saw him and Cody weren't going to come under the swing at lunchtime, I set the bag with their sandwiches and apples in it on the swing set. The bag was still there when the bell rang. They quit sitting next to me on the bus, too, and Rufus didn't show up that night to play. After this junk went on for 3 or 4 days, I sneaked the pillowcase full of dinosaurs out and headed over to where Rufus lived. I knocked on the door and Cody answered. I thought things might be back to being okay because Cody gave me a great big smile and said, "Hiya, Kenny. You want to talk to Rufus?" "Hi, Cody." "Just a minute." Cody closed the door and ran back inside. A minute later, Rufus came to the door. "Hey, Rufus. I thought you might want to play dinosaurs. It's your turn to be the Americans." Rufus looked at the pillowcase, then back at me. "I ain't playing with you no more, Kenny." "How come?" I knew, though. "I thought you was my friend. I didn't think you was like all them other people," he said. "I thought you was different." He didn't say this stuff like he was mad. He just sounded real sad. He pulled Cody out of the doorway and shut it. Rufus might as well have tied me to a tree and said, "Ready, aim, fire." I felt like someone had pulled all my teeth out with a pair of rusty pliers. I wanted to knock on his door and tell him I am different, but I was too embarrassed, so I walked the dinosaurs back home. I couldn't believe how sad I got. It's funny how things could change so much and you wouldn't notice. All of a sudden I started remembering how much I hated riding the bus. All of a sudden I started remembering how lunchtime under the swing set alone wasn't very much fun. All of a sudden I started remembering that before Rufus came to Flint, my only friend was the world's biggest dinosaur thief, L.J. Jones. All of a sudden I remembered that Rufus and Cody were the only 2 kids in the whole school, other than Byron and Joey, that I didn't automatically look at sideways. A couple of days later, Mama asked me to sit in the kitchen with her for a while. "How's school?" "Okay." I knew she was fishing to find out what was wrong and hoped it wouldn't take her too long. I wanted to tell her what I'd done. "Where's Rufus been? I haven't seen him lately." It was real embarrassing, but tears just exploded out of my face. And even though I knew she was going to be disappointed in me, I told Mama how I'd hurt Rufus's feelings. "Did you apologize?" "Sort of, but he wouldn't let me talk to him." "Well, give him some time, then try again." "Yes, Mama." The next day after school, when the bus pulled up at Rufus's stop, Mama was standing there. When Rufus and Cody got off, they said, "Hi, Mrs. Watson," and gave her their big smiles. The three of them walked towards Rufus's house. Mama put her hand on Rufus's head while they walked. Mama didn't say anything when she got home, and I didn't ask her, but I kept my eye on the clock. At exactly 5:30, there was a knock, and I knew who it was, and I knew what I had to do. Mama and Joey were in the living room, and when they heard the knock, everything there got real quiet. Rufus and Cody were standing on the porch, smiling a mile a minute. I said, "Rufus, I'm sorry." He said, "That's okay." I wasn't through, though. I really wanted him to know I am different. He said, "Shoot, Kenny, you think I don't know? Why you think I came back? But remember, you said it's my turn to be the Americans." People started moving around in the living room. Again, I guess I should have told Mama that I really appreciated her helping me get my friend back. But I didn't have to. I was pretty sure she already knew.